formula is an equation that performs a calculation on the data contained in a worksheet. A formula always begins with an equal sign and uses arithmetic operators. An operator is a symbol that specifies the type of numeric operation to perform. Excel includes the following operators: plus, minus, division and multiplication, percent, and exponential. To calculate a result from a formula is a variable value because it can be changed if the data depends on changes. In contrast, a number entry is a constant value. It does not begin with an equal sign and does not change unless you change it directly by typing in another entry. In a formula that contains more than one operator, Excel calculates the formula from left to right and performs a calculation in the following order: percent, exponential, multiplication, and division, addition, and then subtraction. This is called the order of precedence. If a formula contains operators with the same precedence, for example addition and subtraction, they are again evaluated from left to right. The order of precedence can be overwritten by enclosing the operation you want to perform first in parentheses. When there are multiple sets of parentheses, Excel evaluates them from working from the innermost set of parentheses out. In this exercise, we're going to learn how to enter formulas. The first thing we want to do is position our active cell in the cell where we want the result of the formula to be displayed. Then we want to take our mouse and put it up into the formula bar and type in the formula. Every formula begins with an equal sign. So in this exercise, we want to add up the contents of B5, C5, and D5. So we have our equal sign in there, so we're going to type B5 plus C5 plus D5. Notice all the reference cells have these colored boxes around them. Once we have completed typing in the formula, it's time to register the formula. We could do this by either clicking on the check or hitting the enter key. And that's our result. A function is a pre-written formula that performs certain types of calculations automatically. The syntax or rules of the structure for entering all functions is function name followed by the arguments in parentheses. The function name identifies the type of calculation to be performed. Most functions require that you enter one or more arguments following the function name. An argument is the data the function uses to perform the calculation. The type of data the function requires depends on the type of calculation being performed. Most commonly, the argument consists of numbers or references to cells that contain the numbers. The argument is enclosed in parentheses, and commas separate multiple arguments. The beginning and ending cells of the range are separated with a colon. Some functions, such as several of the date and time functions, do not require an argument. However, you still need to enter the opening and closing parentheses. In the last exercise, what we did is we created formulas by just referencing cell addresses, certain cells. Excel has a list of pre-written formulas that we can access to do all kinds of different types of functions. To access that list of functions, what we do is we go up to right around the formula bar and click on the Insert Function button. And that activates the Insert Function dialog box. From here, what we can do is we can search for a function just like we would in Google. To search for something, we type in, let's say for example, we want to do calculate a mortgage. Click on Go, and it'll bring up certain functions that will give you the ability to calculate a mortgage. Or from our select a category drop down, we can choose from a whole list of different types of categories. Most recently used gives a list of the most recently used functions on this particular machine. Or we can list all the functions available in Excel. Or strictly financial, strictly date and time functions, math and trig, statistics. Or even look up reference or database functions. Right now I want to demonstrate how to use the sum function using the insert function. I want to make sure my current cell location is in the cell where I want the results of the formula to be, which is B10. Then click on Insert Function. Make sure I'm on my most recently used, and I do see the sum function that's in that list. Then click OK. And from here, in number 1, what I could do is clear out the contents of the number 1 and then select the cells that I want to add up, which is B5 through B9. That's our range. Once I selected the cells that I wanted to add up or sum, then I click OK, and it enters the sum of all those cells that I had selected in cell B10. Now, using the sum function is probably one of the most common functions to use in Excel. So they made it a very popular icon on the ribbon in the editing group. So if I wanted to add up these lists of numbers for February, what I'm going to do is position my cell in the cell where I want the results of the formula to be, and then click on Auto Sum. And what that does is, as soon as I click that, it looks for numbers either above it or to the left of it. In this case, it found numbers above that cell. It enters the sum function with the range. Once we look it over and determine that this is exactly what we want, we could either click on the check or hit the enter key. Now, we don't have to keep on doing it for March. What we could do is we can use the handle to copy that formula across. And with the relative cell address, it automatically changes the formula to reference the D column. You can also use the auto sum button to calculate the min, the max, and the average. Select the cell that you want the minimum values for cells B5 through D5. Go up to the auto sum button, but in this case we're going to drop down, choose min, and instead of clicking the check or the enter, select the range that you want to use for calculating the min. In this case, it's B5 through D5. Then we could hit the green check. Now we could use the fill handle to copy down, and we could repeat that process for max, and average. A relative reference is a cell or range reference in a formula whose location is interrupted by Excel in relation to the position of the cell that it contains the formula. When a formula is copied, the reference cell in the formula automatically adjusts to reflect the new worksheet location. The relative relationship between the reference cell and the new location is maintained because relative references automatically adjust for the new location. The relative references in a copied formula refer to different cells than the references in the original formula. The relationship between cells is both the copied and the pasted formulas is the same, although the cell references are different. We can also copy formulas. Let's say, for example, I want to copy this formula to E6, 7, 8, and 9. I can do this by using, remember the fill handle? And I'm going to click, hold, and drag it down to copy the formula. Let's look at E5. Notice the formula is B5 plus C5 plus D5. Basically, those three cells. Now when we copy the formula, we might think that it's still referencing B5, C5, and D5. But watch when I click on the formula for coffee. It automatically adjusted the formula to add up row 6. And for food and beverage, row 7, row 8, and row 9. So by copying the formula to another cell or another row, automatically adjusted the row number. That's what they mean by relative reference. When I copied the formula changed relative to the row that I copied it to. When a number in a reference cell in the formula changes, Excel automatically recalculates all formulas that are dependent upon the changed value, because only the formulas directly affected by a change in the data are recalculated. The time it takes to recalculate the workbook is reduced. Without this feature in a large worksheet, it could take several minutes to recalculate all the formulas each time a number is changed in the worksheet. Recalculation is one of the most powerful features of electronic worksheets. Let's say, for example, the computer rentals for January should be $400 instead of $600 revenue. We select the cell B9 and change the value to 400. Now once I hit enter or click on the check, what's going to happen is every formula that's dependent on that particular cell is going to get recalculated. So watch when I hit the enter key. Not only are these formulas going to get updated, but also the total sales. I'm going to hit enter right now. See the results?